Next, we have specification number 5, which asks us to describe simple reflex arcs in terms of receptor, sensory neuron, relay neuron, motor neuron and effector, which is muscles and glands. So, a simple reflex arc is an automatic, nearly instantaneous response to a stimulus. It allows the body to react quickly without thinking, protecting us from harm. Let's go through the pathway. First, the receptor detects the stimulus. For example, if a pin pricks the paw, the pain receptors in the skin are activated. The sensory neuron then carries this impulse from the receptor to the spinal cord. Inside the spinal cord, the impulse reaches a relay neuron, also called an interneuron. The relay neuron processes the signal and passes it onto the motor neuron through a synapse. The motor neuron then carries the impulse out of the spinal cord to the effector, which is usually a muscle or a gland. In this case, the muscle contracts and the paw is withdrawn from the pin. This whole process happens very quickly because the impulse travels along a direct pathway and does not need to go to the brain first. That's why reflex actions are so fast and essential for protecting the body from sudden danger. If we talk about types of human responses, there are two main kinds, voluntary and involuntary. Voluntary responses are conscious actions controlled by the brain. You make a decision to perform them, and they may take a little time as you consider your options. For example, reaching out to pick up a cup of coffee is a voluntary action. On the other hand, involuntary responses, also called reflex responses, happen automatically and do not require the brain to coordinate them. You often become aware of the action only after it has occurred. These reflexes are very fast and are essential for survival, helping to prevent injury. For instance, pulling your hand away after touching something hot or sharp is an involuntary reflex. Now here's a diagram which shows the nervous system's quick and automatic response to a stimulus. This process involves the central nervous system and 3 types of neurons that work together to produce a fast protective response. The process begins with a stimulus, which is any change in the environment such as heat, pain, or pressure. This stimulus is detected by a receptor, usually located in sense organs or the skin. The receptor identifies the change and converts it into an electrical impulse. Once the impulse is produced, it travels along a sensory neuron towards the central nervous system. The CNS consists of the brain and spinal cord and acts as the main processing center of the body. The sensory neuron carries information from the receptor to the CNS for further handling. Inside the CNS, the impulse is passed to a relay neuron. Relay neurons are located within the brain or spinal cord and serve as a connection between sensory neurons and motor neurons. Their role is to transmit the impulse quickly and efficiently to the next neuron in the pathway. After this, the impulse is sent along a motor neuron. The motor neuron carries the signal away from the CNS towards an effector, which can be a muscle or a gland. The motor neuron ensures that the body produces the correct action in response to the stimulus. Finally, the impulse reaches the effector, where a response is produced. In this case, the effector is a muscle. The nerve signals from the motor neuron cause the muscle fibers to contract, resulting in a rapid physical action such as withdrawing a hand or paw from a painful stimulus. This entire pathway happens very quickly and automatically, allowing the body to protect itself from harm without the need for conscious thought. This diagram shows how a reflex arc works, which is the nervous system's quick and automatic response to a stimulus. Now here, this diagram shows a situation in which a pin pricks the paw, illustrating how a reflex arc functions. Here, the sharp pin acts as the stimulus that pricks the skin of the paw. The pain is detected by receptors in the skin, which quickly generate an electrical impulse. This impulse then travels along the sensory neuron to the spinal cord. Within the spinal cord, the impulse is passed to a relay neuron, which forwards it to a motor neuron. The motor neuron carries the impulse to the effector, which is the muscle. As a result, the muscle contracts and produces a response by pulling the paw away from the pin. The reflex arc begins when a stimulus, such as a pin prick, is detected by receptors in the skin. These specialized receptors immediately recognize the harmful stimulus and generate an electrical impulse. This impulse is then transmitted by a sensory neuron from the receptor to the spinal cord. Once the impulse reaches the spinal cord, it is passed across a synapse to a relay neuron. The relay neuron then transfers the impulse to a motor neuron within the spinal cord. The motor neuron carries the impulse from the spinal cord to an effector, which in this case is a muscle. The muscle receives the signal and contracts, causing the paw to quickly withdraw from the painful stimulus. At the same time, another impulse is sent to the brain to inform it about the stimulus. However, the brain does not control the immediate reaction, which is why the reflex action is very fast and automatic, helping to protect the body from harm. So, a reflex arc is the route taken by nerve impulses during a reflex action. It includes 3 main types of neurons that work together to produce a quick response. Sensory neurons carry electrical impulses from receptors towards the central nervous system. Relay neurons, also known as intermediate neurons, are located within the CNS and link sensory neurons to motor neurons. Motor neurons then transmit impulses from the CNS to effectors, such as muscles or glands, which produce the final response. Reflex responses are automatic, faster, and more protective than voluntary actions because the impulses travel through the spinal cord instead of being processed by the brain first. This allows the body to react instantly to harmful or dangerous stimuli. Such rapid and involuntary reactions help protect the body from injury. Common examples of reflex actions include quickly pulling a hand away from a hot surface and the knee-jerk response.